All right, welcome back with a quick little review here, this time for Eastern Europe, as they just concluded week number 4 of the DPC, are starting to close in on the end of things, just about a week and a half left of matches to be played, and things are looking pretty intense in both the upper and lower division. For Eastern Europe's lower division, very similar to Southeast Asia's, we have 3 teams tied for first place right now, which means one of those teams is likely going to be the one that shakes down out of that top 2, so it's going to be really interesting to see how that goes. But before we get into this review, I just remind you guys, if you didn't know, we have a Discord server where we talk all things DPC. Feel free to join that, link in the description. And if you enjoy the video, feel free to like, subscribe, share, all that fun stuff. We're close to 1K subscribers, which is why I'm pushing so much for it. All right, so starting off with the matches that we've had this week, starting off on January 6th, we had Spirit taking down Gambit. This was a pretty straightforward series for Spirit. Gambit put up a pretty decent fight in game 1, but overall Spirit is Spirit, so they stay there. Hellraisers taking down Navi, and notably Navi, they were 2-1 coming into this brand new year, so they did have a positive record. But notably they look a lot stronger this week, even though they don't exactly get the results that they're maybe hoping for. They forced the series to 3 games. Game 1 was a very long, hard match. Hellraisers really made Navi fight for that one. But after that, it seemed like Navi kind of expended all of their fuel, and Hellraisers take this series 2-1 all around. Again, Hellraisers in the one game that they do give up, they really made Navi work for it, and they come back and they take the series 2-1. January 7th, we had Virtus.Pro taking down Empire. Again, game 1 kind of closer than you would expect, but overall Virtus.Pro kind of handling Empire, who have had a pretty rough go of it this season. And then January 9th, just earlier today actually, we had PuckChamp taking down Mind Games, previously known as Unique. From what I can tell, that they've been signed by Mind Games for well over a month now, but they just switched their name now. It's all really confusing. But yes, if you see Mind Games on the board, they were previously known as Unique, who is not having the best season so far. I thought PuckChamp played pretty well. Mind Games notably had taken a game off of them. And while watching this series, I thought that Fear, who was casting one of the games, had a really good point about PuckChamp, who has been doing so well this season, is that when they are allowed to play the strategy that they want, when they're allowed to play with the drafts that they want, they are arguably one of the best teams in the entire DPC. They can execute it very well, very cleanly, very sharply, and they look really good. But when when a wrench is thrown into their plan, either they don't get a comfortable draft, or maybe they lose a lane that they should have won, they tend to fall apart, and that's when you end up seeing PuckChamp dropping games to teams like Empire, like Unique, aka Mind Games. And so for me, that was a real eye-opener as to why I didn't exactly have the best feeling about this team, even though they had a fantastic record. Don't get me wrong, they're still having a great time in this division. They're definitely one of the strongest teams there, but I'm worried about when they get to the main stage of majors, assuming they make it, which with the record that they have, they should. I'm worried that some better teams are going to notice that and really exploit that once we get into the main stage and teams have more time to focus on the opponent that they're playing against. But other than that one game that they did drop to Mind Games, in which Mind Games really just put them on an uncomfortable draft, yeah, all things looking good for PuckChamp, still looking like one of the best teams in this division. And now, moving on to our last series of the week, we had Spirit versus Navi. This was a hell of a series. Game 1 of the series was fantastic. You had your Toronto Tokyo all chat taunting, which was pretty fantastic. Navi does take game 1 in this, but again, Navi, just like the series with Hellraisers, they really had to work for that win. They had a really nice lead early on in that game. Spirit really fought back, really got themselves back into the game, and all of a sudden you start having this feeling in your stomach. Like, you already know that Navi is going to lose this game, not because they're going to throw it, but because Spirit is just that good. And there were a lot of points where Spirit really looked like they were going to win, but this game goes late, goes to 60 minutes, and it's actually Navi who takes this first game. Things don't look as good in game 2 for Navi, as they kind of just get ran over a little bit. And in game 3, it looks like a repeat of game 1. Navi starts off really strong, and then things kind of turn a little bit, but rather than having a really close match for the next hour or so, it was just Team Spirit from there, and Team Spirit takes this series. But again, Navi, I was really impressed with them. Even though they lose both of their series this week, it is to the 2 teams that are undefeated so far. This is some of the best Dota I've seen them play so far. Again, even though they've lost, they've looked really consistent. You'll see on the power rankings that I don't actually end up knocking Navi down all that much from where they previously were. We'll see how things go with other teams passing them or dropping and all that sort of stuff. But all in all, I saw where they were on the power rankings, and I said, yep, that looks about right for them. So Now looking at the standings, Team Spirit moves up to first place. Of course, they were only trailing behind PuckChamp because they had not played as many matches. They are 5-0 leading the charge. This was the first time that they dropped a game in this entire DPC so far, and it was to Navi. And that was, again, a very thrilling game. 100% recommend checking it out. PuckChamp drops 1 spot. They are 5-1 so far. Hellraisers also dropped 1 spot as they are 4-0 so far. But again, they have yet to lose a game. The only reason they're in third place is because they have not played as many matches as the teams ahead of them. We then have Virtus.Pro moving up 1 spot into 4th place. They are 3-2 so far. They still have a very realistic opportunity of making it into the major. It's going to be tough to catch teams like PuckChamp, who, if they end up winning their last series, it's going to be really, really difficult for them to catch. Hellraiser still has plenty of time to end up faltering too, so it's likely that Vertice Pro makes it, but again, they're trailing right now, so they're looking like the least favorable one. Dropping 1 spot, we have Navi. Again, Navi goes 0-2 on the week. Even though they do go 0-2, those are some pretty good series. They have a lot to look forward to, or not a lot to look forward to, I should say. A lot of good things to look at from these 2 series. It's just really unfortunate that they just weren't able to quite secure them. And then at the bottom, we have all 3 teams staying in the same spot from last week. 6th place, we have Gambit, who is 1-4. In 7th place, we have Empire and Mind Games, who are tied at 0-5 so far. Taking a look at some stats now over these past 4 weeks, we've had 48 matches played in total. Dire has a total of 25 wins, Radiant with 23. And for first and last pick, first pick has won 26 times, last pick has won 22. For top heroes, we have Beastmaster, 7-1. Pretty prevalent hero that we've been seeing a lot in the DPC. Weaver, 11-4, another one of those heroes. And then Ogre Magi and Shadow Demon, 4-0 each. We saw quite a bit of Shadow Demon in the series earlier today between Navi and Team Spirit. Looked pretty good in that. Teams are starting to really start to realize the value of having a save on your team once again. As for worst heroes, 1-6 on the Terrorblade. Again, this is a hero that hasn't been touched as much as of late. This hero has been on the worst list for quite a few weeks now. Disruptor 3-9 and Puck 3-6. For most banned, we have Io at 36, Weaver with 33, and Monkey King with 33 as well. For top GPM, we have Team Spirit leading the way with 2460, then Vertice Pro with 2313. So Vertice Pro actually has some very good stats on this board, and a lot of players showing up in the individual player stats as well. But again, they're just not really generating the wins or as many wins as you would come to expect with a team like Vertice Pro. And if you watch their games, it's apparent that they do have the individual player skill. They generally do have the coordination of a great team, but it's always just those slight moments in team fights or in late game scenarios that end up costing them games. It's something that I think that they're getting better at as the season goes on. Let's just hope that it's not too late at this point for them to make it to the first major. We then have PuckChamp with 2294 GPM. For top XPM, it's Spirit leading the way once again with 2963. Vertice Pro then with 2804. Hellraisers with 2763. And then for top KDA, Spirit leads the way with 4.90. We then have Vertice Pro with 3.72 and PuckChamp with 3.66. For individual players now, top GPM, Yatoro leads the way for the 2nd week in a row. I believe actually maybe he's led this entire time with 718, Pure with 663, and then Rebel with 653, who's having himself a hell of a season as well. For top XPM, Yatoro leads the way, 737, Rebel with 732, and then GPK with 724, who also has been having a fantastic season, again, despite the fact the team is not having the most outstanding tournament so far. For top KDA, Toronto Tokyo leads the way with an astounding 9.5 KDA, which is ridiculous when you take into account that these guys have already played 11 individual games so far. Rebel has a 9.24, and Young G was 6.58. So, yeah, all around, a lot of movement near the top of the standings list. Not a very big movements. Teams just kind of moving up one spot each, but yeah, I'm really interested to see who ends up making it to the major. It's looking like PuckChamp and Spirit are pretty locked in. Hellraisers, not so much. They do still have 3 more matches to play. They're going to have to win probably at least 2 of those matches if they want to secure their spot at the major, because Vertice Pro is right behind them. And if Vertice Pro doesn't drop any more matches, the highest they could get up to is 5 wins. So as long as they get ahead of that, they're pretty good. But yeah, you guys can let me know who you think is going to end up making it any higher up in this list. Who's making it to the major, who's not? Do you think Vertice Pro makes it? Let me know in the comments. And do you think Empire Mind Games are going to end up catching Gambit and one of them avoids relegation? Gambit's also not been having the best season, but people pay attention more to the 2 teams that are winless so far. Now looking at the matches in the lower division, again, slightly less matches here because some of the matches were played before the Christmas break. Starting off with Hydra taking down Fantastic Five 2-1. Fantastic Five put up a pretty, well, fantastic fight in a few of these games, considering that they are a team near the bottom of the list, not very expected to do very well against Hydra, who is the complete opposite. They're near the top. They are also fighting for one of those top 2 spots to make it to the upper bracket next division, next tour. But all in all, Hydra does come away with the win. They do have that experience over them, and so they take the series. January 7th, we have V Gaming taking down Amiga. Again, a case of one team doing very, very well so far against a team that has been having a pretty lukewarm start so far. We then have the Rejects taking down Gambit. Again, kind of the same thing. All 3 of the best teams just kind of picking on some of the weaker teams in this division. And then on January 9th, we had Windstrike taking down Bait. And man, talk about teams having a rough go of it. Bait has still yet to win an individual game so far. And we had some hope a little bit, or at least I did, after the first few series. Even though they did lose them, I saw some pretty good potential in their early game. If they were able to transfer that early game momentum into a late game GG, then they would be able to get some wins. But it has just really been crumbling so far, and it's looking like Bait is pretty locked in to get knocked out of this DPC. Mathematically, they aren't eliminated yet. There are still some teams that are within reach for them to catch. They only have 2 series left. They have to win both of them. If they lose even just one more series, they're out of the DPC once again, which would not be the first time for Bait. So we'll have to see how that goes. But that leads me perfectly into the standings now. Again, talking about just like with Southeast Asia's lower division, we have 3 teams leading the charge in the lower division. We have Rejects, who are 4-1, V Gaming, who is 4-1, and Hydra, who is 4-1 so far. Notably, V Gaming has beat both Rejects and Hydra, but they were the only loss that they've had so far has been to Gambit, which was a little surprising. But that's why I always say that there's no real such thing as a wash of a series. A lower tier team can always beat a better tier team on any given day. In 4th place, staying in the same spot, we have Windstrike, who is 3-2 so far. We have Namiga and Gambit dropping down 1 spot each to 5th place, who are 2-3 so far. And then Fantastic Five at 7th place, and again, Bait in 8th place, very fitting for their name, 0-5 so far. Again, not having won an individual game yet. They're really struggling in this division. Looking at some stats now, there have been 47 matches played in total. 26 of those have been Radiant wins, 21 on Dire. We've had the same amount for last pick and first pick, as this is one of those divisions where every single match is either Radiant first pick or Dire last pick. There has not been a single match where Radiant was last pick and Dire was first pick. For top heroes, we have Medusa at 5-1, Terrorblade at 7-2. So Terrorblade, one of the best heroes here, one of the worst heroes in the upper division. And then Barana, 9-3. For worst heroes, we have Dark Willow, 1-9. Picked 10 times and only has 1 win to show for it. Not been having a lot of success there. Darkseer, 1-5, and Razor, 2-7. For most banned, we have Beastmaster with 34, Io with 33, and Weaver with 30. For top GPM teams, we have Rejects leading the way with 24-31, then Hydra with 23-71, and Windstrike tied with them as well with 23-71. It's not usually, it's not very common to see 2 teams that are actually tied for GPM or XPM. For top XPM now, Hydra leads the way with 29-21. We then have Gambit with 28-43 and Windstrike with 28-25. And then finally for top KDA, Windstrike actually leads the way despite not being one of the 3 teams leading the charge with 4.75, V Gaming with 3.99, and Gambit with 3.64. Now looking at individual players, once again, Ramses leads the charge for GPM with 799. We then have Dream, part of Hydra with 717, and Painless, a part of V Gaming with 705. For top XPM, we have Dream leading the way with 738, Ascold with 728, and Drawden with 719. And then for top KDA, Drawden leads the way with an astounding 19.5. He is on the team Windstrike. And again, Windstrike not having the best results, but having a 19.5 KDA is pretty ridiculous. Following that, we have Hayes with 9.96 and Dodge Shock with 8.95. So yeah, pretty interesting division. Again, I'm really curious to see who ends up dropping out of this top 3 here, as it's pretty unlikely that Windstrike catches these guys up here. But yeah, let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed, feel free to leave a like, subscribe, share, all that fun stuff. Trying to grow the channel as much as possible. If you're at all curious about the Discord server, check the description. And yeah, I'll talk to you guys tomorrow with my upper division preview with my fantasy picks, as well as my, I believe tomorrow is South America review day. So yeah, feel free to check that out.